Hey guys, how are you doing? So today we are scarifying, aerating, and the customer has bought a bag of seed and asked that I just put the seed down for him. Now I'm putting the seed down completely free. It shouldn't take too long to do, but there's going to be no top dressing, nothing to cover the seeds up, so there is a risk of birds, heavy rain and wind from washing it all away. So as you watch through this video, you will see the things that I'm going to do to try and improve the chances of getting good germination rates. There's quite a bit of thatch in this lawn, so there's going to be a lot of thatch that comes out when we scarify. Just watch and enjoy. Any questions, pop them down below. I am here to help you with your lawn. Let's crack on. How are you doing? How are you doing? Are you alright? Are you alright? Are you aerate? Aerate? No? Dad joke. Alright, I'll crack on. Right, look at the moss. Look at the moss. It's absolutely snided with moss. And we've got to get that out. And it's because it's the type of lawn that produces a lot of thatch. We just need to get it out. Good scarify first. So this is my still scarifier, and it's the RL 540. They're not bad. They're not bad bits of kit. They're middle of the road. So middle of road in performance, power, but perfectly fine if you don't mind going over your lawn more than once when it's really thick. If you want to pay £2,500 for a high-end machine, you can, and they can cut through a thick layer of thatch like butter, but they're more expensive and generally a lot more noisy as well. I find this to be really quiet, not much more noisy than a mower, and it does a fantastic job. So it's quite amazing, isn't it, how much comes out? I filled a bin bag. Now let's have a look. Now this particular lawn is in the shade, and on setting 2 we have definitely cut into the soil. You can see the grooves, so we don't need to go any deeper, but we've actually thinned it out quite a bit, but there are a few bits of moss left. So what I'm going to do is go in a different direction, but go on the highest setting we can and just go very steady to try and tease out the last few bits without ripping out too much grass. So that's had 2 scarifies, and we've taken a lot of moss out. And because there was a lot of moss, there wasn't a lot of grass. Remember, grass and moss compete for the same space. The longer you leave scarifying and the more you're in the shade, the more moss will creep in, because moss likes damp and shady conditions. Okay? And grass can only thrive if there's at least 3 hours of direct sunlight, so they tend to do better in summer and struggle over winter, and they go weak, and then the moss will creep in. And the longer you leave it between scarifying, the worse it becomes and the thicker it gets. And then when you do scarify, there isn't much grass left because the moss had taken over. So that's exactly what's happened here in this shaded part. The next lawn, as you can see there, is in a lot more sun, and then when we go around to the back, there's plenty of sun around there, so they won't be as bad as this. So even though there are some mosses there, we could spend all day and get more of that out, but there's plenty of soil exposed now. So what we're going to do is aerate, which is punching holes into the ground. When we punch a hole into the ground, everything can drain through a lot easier, and it improves compacted lawns. Every time you walk on your lawn, you're gradually compacting it. Right, so it's been aerated, which is punching a hole in the ground to relieve the compaction. There's your holes there, about 1.5 inches deep, and that's the soil, which is a little bit sticky, a little bit clay, but not too bad. It is crumbling up. So, how are we going to seed when we don't have a top dressing? Well, years ago people would just chuck seed down, and some would take and some wouldn't take. Now you have birds, they will come down and eat any seeds what they see. If we get strong wind or strong rain or both, that's going to move the seeds around. But because we've got the aeration holes, I want some of the seeds to go down the holes. So other than that, the only other thing we can do after that is to use the roller to press the seeds down so they are pressed into the soil. So then we get good seed to soil contact, and that seed to soil contact really improves germination, and seeds have to touch soil to germinate. In other words, come out and do what they've got to do. Right, this is the customer's seed. They brought it from Lawnsmith, and it's a classic mix for a beautiful lawn that's meant to be used. So it's dwarf ryegrasses, so they're good hard wearing, some red fescues which help it to spread, chewing fescues, meadowgrass, and some bents. So it's got a bit of everything in there. Now I'm just using this little hand spreader on the highest setting, so we're just going to open it up onto the maximum setting and see how much seed comes out. If not, I'll just have to scatter it by hand. That is actually pretty good. So I've put a little bit more on the barer spots, so we could just leave it at that, but how much we'll take and how much won't. You are against the elements, so we need to try and do what we can to improve the germination. So I'm going to try my lawn leveling lute. Okay, this is one of my lutes. This is a Lanzi model, and I'll leave a link in the description for these, and these Lanzi aeration, handheld aerators. And these are good for corners where your machine can't get. It's just the same, punch a hole and it'll leave a core. Right, so the cores aren't really breaking up, but I'm not surprised. On the last job I did this morning, the cores were very sandy, and you've only got to touch them and they just fall apart, so that made a perfect top dressing. There's a little bit more clay content here, so the cores are not breaking up. I'm going to leave them on the lawn because I'm going to go over with the roller, and that is going to press them in and it will cover some of the seeds. So we are just improving things. So the roller itself will press the seeds into the soil, and obviously the soil cores also provide additional protection. Some of the seeds will have gone down the holes, so let's crack on. Right, so let's add 2 Scarifys, 45-degree angle to the first pass, and I honestly believe that most of this won't need any seeding whatsoever, apart from a few little bits where the car's just been going around the corner there, just a few little tiny bits. So we'll get this cleared up and then we'll take a look. That's scarified really well. It's come out pretty much perfect. It hasn't damaged too much, it's just a typical Scarify. Thinned it out overall. There's a few bits on the edges where it was quite mossy, but in general I'm really happy with that. So there will be some seeding just in a few little spots where it's thinned out a bit down this edge, and this is where they've got 2 cars parked and basically just stepping out onto the grass over winter and wearing it down and walking up. So what we're going to do now is just rake it all up into piles. We'll get it cleared off and then we'll get the aerator on. Okay, right, that is done. Scarified, aerated, overseeded. Again, we've left the soil cores on just to try and cover some seeds, as well as using the roller to press it all in. So we've got a good seed to soil contact, which will aid germination. The only issues, like I say, are extreme weather, wind, water, rain or birds. So other than that, it's just a case of keeping it nice and watered. Right, let me take you and we can see you the back garden. So this is the back garden. Now again, it's got really mossy, so we've got to give it a good Scarify, get this moss out. Right, we'll crack on. We'll do all of this on a time lapse. We'll have a little chat towards the end and explain a few things. Whew. I am glad that is done. So we just need let time take its course, and hopefully in about 3 or 4 weeks some of the grass will start to come through, but it's going to be slow at this time of the year. So 3 to 4 weeks I would say before you see any sort of new shoots. As we get into sort of April and May, if you do any seeding then, as long as you keep it damp, the seeds can come up in as little as 3 to 5 days. But at this time of the year, it takes longer, but it'll still get there. So if you've got any questions or comments, please pop them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, so we've got an update on this lawn now. We are at about 3-4 weeks on since we scarified, aerated and used the customer's own seed. We didn't use a top dressing. It just says, can you put me a bit of seed down, which is fine. But ordinarily I would cover the seeds with a layer of compost or topsoil, and it helps improve germination rates. You imagine when we get heavy rain, it will wash some of the seeds around. They lift up in the puddles and they float around, and then you end up with gaps. And it's the same with the wind. You get strong winds, and the birds coming in as well can cause some issues because they'll be taking some of the seeds. And I'll show you where we're at on this lawn. Now this is the back lawn. We're not there yet because we're only at week 3 or 4, and it has been a bit grey and grim for a few weeks. We've not had much sunny weather. So I would imagine in about 4 weeks we're going to have some nice weather over the next few weeks. I think this is going to look a lot better in about 4 weeks. We're still only halfway through the recovery process. As you can see, still a few patches and you can still see the aeration holes. But I know that this is on the road to recovery. It is on its way back. It is coming. Now, the way I know that is because we can still see the aeration holes. It still looks thin, and it looks like it was only renovated a few weeks ago. But just give it time, I promise you and assure you. So what I look for is an overall sea of green, which I can see. So this is going to be a lot happier in about 4 weeks, something like that. Get back onto the regular mowing and things will just right themselves. So let me take you round. We'll show you the front. Now this is one. This one didn't need, we didn't need to go ridiculously heavy with this, although we did scarify it twice. But this one is looking great. Plenty of sunshine, still a bit thin in places, but it is definitely on the road to recovery, as you can just see. It's looking good. Like I say, a few more weeks. Still a bit thin here. The customer gets out of the car and walks across. In fact, I've just been informed that sometimes gets driven over as well on the corners. So that is why we've got some tyre marks on there. But overall, I'm pleased with that. Now then, this is one in the shade. I haven't seen this one yet. But there are definitely signs of improvement. Definitely signs of recovery. Although there's a couple of patches there. They may just take time to come through because this was heavily in shade. So this one is definitely going to take longer. And we've got tire marks here as well. So it doesn't help. Anyway, I wanted to give you this update. You might have been expecting a beautiful lush green lawn, but it goes to prove that what you've got to do is follow all the steps in the order. Scarify really heavily. Use your hand rake for any patches of moss and rake those out. But overall, that's looking good. This was going to be the worst because it's in the shade. But if you scarify, aerate, overseed and then top dress, you add that extra layer of protection, and that is what helps, because when we get the heavy rain, that's holding a little bit of moisture in the compost and it's stopping the seeds from just instantly lifting up and moving around, because they do. You get some heavy rain, and we have had some, and same with the wind. We get strong winds, they will blow some of the seeds around. So obviously you do your steps, then you want to get the roller on, and then really you want to be getting some compost on. So you can get results and you can get lucky, but your chances of good, solid, even germination go down when you miss steps out. Really appreciate you watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, thumbs up would be amazing. Subscribe if you want to. But overall, any questions, comments, please leave them down below. You can see from other videos I've done where we've put the top dressing on, it makes such a big difference. But it would be interesting to come back here a month, 2 months from now. I'm pretty sure a lot of it will have come back. Now, that's looking alright. Obviously, we're not there yet. And if you looked at this now and thought, oh, that ain't done very well, yeah, that is what you think. But let's just give it a bit more time. It's only been 3 or 4 weeks, and this has been in the shade. And we've not had a fantastic amount of good weather. Alright, thanks for watching. See you on the next one, guys. Thanks a lot.